What do we know? What do we know? Real Madrid ends up getting the absolute team that I wanted to most avoid, PSG. The moment that all of you guys had been waiting for. It's time for my UEFA Champions League round of 16 2022 predictions. Let's get started. What's up, guys? Welcome back to El Merengue Culé. Now I know this video is long overdue, but hear me out. I was trying to wait till the last minute, right before the actual start of the round of 16 playoffs, to do all my predictions, because we all know that a lot of things can change from the moment the draw happens to the moment the games are about to begin, and that is exactly what has happened, and here we are. So we're gonna run through each one of the teams. We're gonna talk about their form, how they did in the Champions League group stage, who their top scorers are, and any injuries that they have going into their respective matchups. And we're gonna go in chronological order, which means that the first game is actually Real Madrid versus PSG. Now, let me put a big disclaimer. I'm going to go in small detail in this video because we have to cover a lot of other teams. But if you want the main analysis, make sure you go check out Elizabeth Helenik's video on her channel. The link will be down in the description, in which she essentially interviews me as a pre-game analysis video. It's about a 24 minute long video, and I guarantee you guys you will enjoy it. You will hear all of my thoughts. She asks me every question that needs to be asked. But with that being said, let's actually get started with these predictions. So what do we kick off with PSG, the beasts that everyone kind of thought of at the beginning of the season, but has it actually translated onto the pitch? The answer is a bit iffy, right? Their current form in their last 5 games is actually 4 wins, 1 tie, and 0 losses. Pretty decent if you ask me, especially when you look to see how many goals they conceded and how many goals they scored, which they only conceded 2 goals in those 5 games, which is pretty decent if you ask me. However, that kind of contradicts what we've seen the majority of the season, which has been a team that has been easily beat in defense, at least compared to their previous seasons, right? Having those front 3 definitely has made them a little weaker back in the defense due to the offense not coming back to defend as much. So that'll be maybe something that Madrid will want to kind of use to their advantage. On top of that, in the Champions League this season, they ended in 2nd place. However, it was against good old Manchester City, probably one of the top contenders to the Champions League. So it can be understood. However, if PSG is looking to be the best team in Europe, they gotta beat the best teams in Europe, and they have already failed to do so this season, losing against Manchester City. However, they did win every single game that they had at home, and that's something that is going to be very important, because Real Madrid is actually going to be playing them in Paris this upcoming match day tomorrow, actually, in Paris, which they actually beat Manchester City 2-0. So it's not all horrible for PSG down in the Champions League this season. Let's kind of run through their top scorers this season. Mbappe is their main top scorer in all competitions with 16 goals, 4 of those being in the Champions League, while Messi is their second top scorer with 7 goals. I know, pretty poor for Messi at this stage of the season, but let's not talk crap just yet, because Messi does have 5 goals in the Champions League this season, which is pretty decent for having only played 6 games. Pretty good ratio. Injuries. Neymar will actually make it to the game, but will he be game fit? Probably not so much. He'll start out on the bench, which might have a significant impact in how PSG plays. And aside from that, Herrera and Sergio Ramos, Real Madrid's ex-captain, is actually going to miss the matchup. Let's switch it over real quick to Real Madrid, who's actually not been having the greatest of 2022 years. Obviously, we've been watching every single game day in, day out. Their current form in the last 5 games is 2 wins, 2 ties, and 1 loss. Yes, they lost their first game of this year against Getafe 1-0, if you guys remember. And in those games, they've only scored 7 goals and conceded 4. So not the greatest goal difference, especially when you compare to PSG. Real Madrid has definitely been struggling to score a little more this season, or this year at least, in those last 5 games. And one of those big reasons is the absence of Karim Benzema. We'll talk a little more about injuries and if Karim Benzema is going to be able to make it to this game in a second. How did they do in the Champions League this year? Well, they finished first place in their group, beating Inter Milan, their main contender to the group, beating them twice actually in this season. Their only loss came to Sheriff, which was a pretty absurd, disappointing loss. Shouldn't have happened. If that game were to be played 10 times again, Madrid would probably win 9 out of those 10. Unfortunately, they did lose to them, but at least it takes off a little bit of pressure of having that undefeated record. With that being said, top scorers, Karim Benzema is obviously Real Madrid's top scorer this season, bagging 22 goals in all competitions, 5 of those being in the Champions League, the same as Messi, who is actually PSG's top scorer in the Champions League. And our second top scorer, that would be Vinicius Jr. having his breakout season, 14 goals in all competitions. That's more than he had in his whole 3 previous seasons with Real Madrid, and only 2 of those being in the Champions League. Sure, you could pick up a couple more goals in the Champions League to kind of pat those stats. However, one of those goals was insane against Shakhtar, if you guys remember. Let's talk about the injuries. Karim Benzema and Mendy were the main question marks going into this game. They have been missing basically the last 3 games. However, both of them are actually fit enough to be called up in the squad list. Are they going to be fit enough to be match ready? I don't know. Everything seems to be pointing at the fact that Benzema and Mendy will both be starting for Real Madrid. They usually tend to not risk players, but this game being such high stakes, I think is one that Real Madrid will want to risk. With that being said, let's jump on to my prediction. I think the game tomorrow is going to be very, very tight. I'm predicting a tie for that one, a 1-1 tie. However, I am predicting a 2-1 victory for Real Madrid back in El Bernabeu for Real Madrid to go through in aggregate 3-2. It's going to be probably the best game of this whole round of 16, and it came early on for us. So guys, make sure you enjoy that one. Like I said, final reminder, go check out Elizabeth's video. The link is down below for my full in-depth analysis coming up into this one. But with that being said, let's move on to the next matchup, which is actually Sporting Lisbon versus Manchester City. Oh boy. Okay, let's see how this one goes with Sporting. Their current form is actually 3-1-1, only 1 loss in their last 5 games. However, they have conceded 5 goals in those games, so about averaging 1 goal per game. Against Man City, I suspect it might be a little bit more. They played, out of those 5 games, their biggest game was against Porto, one of their main rivals, to which they actually tied 2-2. In the Champions League, they finished 2nd behind Ajax. Ajax is having a phenomenal season, especially in the Champions League. They lost to both Ajax and Dortmund throughout the group stage, so already showing that they've lost to the big teams. And on top of that, their loss to Ajax was 5-1. That is a demolition. Something that I believe Man City should also be capable of doing. Their top scorers are Paulinho with 11 goals, 3 in the Champions League, and Goncalves, 7 in all competitions, 4 in the Champions League. No significant injuries for them, so that is at least one good news. But let's move on to Manchester City, who in their last 5 games have won 4 and tied 1 with 0 losses, scored 10 in those 5 games, and only conceded twice. Pretty good goal difference if you ask me, especially when you consider the fact that they played both Chelsea and Arsenal in those 5 games, beating both of them. In the Champions League this season, we already kind of talked about it. They beat PSG to that first spot position. However, they did lose to PSG 2-0 in Paris, and also lost to Leipzig. So Man City has already shown weaknesses this season. They are beatable. It might not be easy, but they are beatable. Top scorers, Mahrez is their main top scorer of the season with 16 goals in all competitions, 5 of those being in the Champions League, and Raheem Sterling is their second top scorer with 12 goals in all competitions, 2 of those in the Champions League. Main injuries are Gabriel Jesus, who is a pretty big one, and Jack Grealish. That's what most news have been saying. I'm not a complete Man City fan, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it to the game. However, that is who it shows that is injured. As for my final prediction, I think you guys know where I'm leaning towards. The beginning of the season I said, and I always say, Man City is usually the main contender, and I think Man City will stay as one of the main contenders, as they're going to be able to beat Sporting and move on to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Let's quickly move on to the next matchup, which is Inter versus Liverpool. And Inter, of course, was in Real Madrid's group, so we are pretty, as Madrid fans, are pretty knowledgeable about them at this point. I don't know. Their current form is 3 wins, 1 tie, and 1 loss in their last 5 games. But their loss was to their Serie A contenders, AC Milan, So that's going to be a bit worrying for Inter to have already shown symptoms of fatigue at this stage of the season. In the Champions League, like I said, second to Real Madrid, lost both games against Madrid. So, they've struggled against teams that are counterattacking in nature, and Liverpool is exactly one of those teams. So that's not going to be an easy one. Top scorers for Inter Milan, Edin Dzeko with 13 goals, 3 of those being in the Champions League, and Lautaro scoring 11 goals. However, none of those have been in the Champions League, which is a bit worrying for Lautaro. I don't know, guys. Three goals as their top scorer is not the most promising. Dzeko is a good player, but I don't know if he's, world class. I think they're going to struggle. Injuries, Bastoni and Correa might not be able to make it to this matchup. Let's look at Liverpool's side of things, in which they have won every single game out of their last 5. Pretty damn good. They're currently second place in the Premier League, still to Manchester City. However, in the Champions League, their amazing run of form continues, in which they won 6 out of 6 games, not losing a single one, obviously. Top scorers, Mo Salah with 16 goals in all competitions, 7 in the Champions League. He's absolutely having another one of those great seasons. Diego Jota, 17 goals in all competitions, only one of those being in the Champions League. And Sadio Mane, who has 10 goals in all competitions, 2 of those being in the Champions League. So they have not scored as many goals as one would think collectively. It's mainly been Salah. So Atletico Madrid Inter Milan is definitely going to look to shut down Salah. However, I don't know if Inter Milan has what it takes to beat Liverpool and move on to the quarterfinals. I think Inter Milan have gone better, but not quite enough to beat this Liverpool side. So Liverpool, I think, should be able to take it. Let's move on to that next matchup, being Salzburg versus Bayern Munich. Starting off with Salzburg, who in their last 5 games have won 4 and lost 1. Pretty decent record if you ask me. In the Champions League, they had a pretty tough group with Lille, Wolfsburg, and Sevilla. Sevilla, who I thought was going to be one of the teams to go through, to my disappointment, they didn't. Salzburg finished second place. Top scorers, Karim Adeyemi with 14 goals in all competitions, 3 of those being in the Champions League. Pretty good season for Karim Adeyemi, if you ask me. However, when you look at the rivals that they have, the monsters that are Bayern Munich, it might be a little tough. However, I will say their current form in the last 5 games is not the greatest. They've won 3 but lost 2. And they're literally coming off from one of those losses this weekend, 4-2. So it's going to be a bit worrying. They had all of their starters in that game too. It's not like they just benched many of their players. And on top of that, their previous game was a 3-2 victory versus Leipzig, once again conceding 2 goals. And that is 6 goals conceded for Bayern Munich in the last 2 games. Not the most promising. However, nonetheless, I still think Bayern Munich has enough firepower to beat Salzburg. Their current Champions League form is 6 wins out of 6. Just ask Barca about it, and or Ricky for that matter. And top scorers, I think we all know who their main top scorer is. Robert Lewandowski with 35 goals this season. 35 goals, that's insane. And Gnabry second with 12 goals in all competitions. Injuries, they do have some significant injuries. Davies is out, Musiala, Goretzka, and actually Neuer, their starting goalkeeper. So they do have a significant amount of injuries. Their team depth might not be as good for this week's Champions League game. However, as they start to get players back, that second leg might be a lot better for them. I still expect a Bayern victory nonetheless. Let's keep moving on because I don't want to make this video too long. I know I'm trying to go fast, but you gotta run through them. Next matchup, Villarreal against Juventus. I think this is probably one of the closer ones of this round of 16 Champions League. And Villarreal has been currently on pretty good form, if you ask me. They are coming back from tying none other than Real Madrid this last weekend, 0-0. They have also tied Atletico Madrid. So they've played 2 pretty tough opponents in La Liga and have not lost to them. Their current form is 2 wins, 2 ties against Madrid teams, and then 1 loss. Unfortunately, they lost that 1 game to Elche. In the Champions League, they finished second place behind Manchester United by 1 point, and in my opinion, Manchester United got pretty lucky to get first place. They had a lot of last-minute goals, Ronaldo saving them in the in those dying minutes. So that is something that Villarreal could have pulled off, that first place finish in the Champions League. For top scorers, Gerard Moreno, 9 goals in all competitions. However, only 1 of those has been in the Champions League. But with that being said, he is actually injured and will not be able to be present for the Juventus game, which is pretty big loss for Villarreal. Danjuma is their second top scorer with 9 goals as well in all competitions, but 4 of those being in the Champions League. Pretty good. Let's move on to Juventus, who's having a lucky but pretty good Champions League season, and if you ask me. They actually finished first place, beating Chelsea, winning 5 of their 6 games, which is pretty decent. Their current run of form is not too bad either. 3 wins and 2 ties, and so no losses in their last 5 games. Decent, especially when you compare it to their start of the season. Top scorers, Dybala and Morata. Those are the main guys that Villarreal is going to want to watch out for. However, injuries, Chiesa is definitely one of their biggest players that's going to be out due to his ACL tear. Chiellini and Bernardeschi. I think overall this is going to be an extremely tight game, and I'm going to back Villarreal to come out with this win. I've been saying that, you know, they're a pretty good Spanish team. I literally said that I think right now they're probably better than Barca, than Atletico, pretty close to Sevilla. So I'm going to go for a Villarreal upset. Obviously, Juve are probably, you know, the favorites, but that's my first upset of the predictions. Let's quickly move on to the next matchup, and that is Chelsea versus Lille. Chelsea got pretty lucky to draw Lille in both of in the redraw and in the original draw. Chelsea's current run of form is not bad. 4 wins, 1 tie, 0 losses. Pretty good in their past 5 games. However, as we said, in the Champions League, I think it was a bit disappointing and upsetting for most Chelsea fans to see them finish second place behind Juventus after having had, obviously, a Champions League winning season the previous season. With that being said, their top scorers are Lukaku. That is their main one with 10 goals. However, only 2 of those in the Champions League. And Jorginho with 9 goals, only 2 of those in the Champions League. Their top scorer in the Champions League is actually Timo Werner. Let's see how long that stays true. Injuries. And you're going to want to check out Elizabeth's channel. Obviously, she is a Chelsea fan. And one of the big things that she talked about is the fact that having lost Chilwell and Reece James out in the outside back positions has been pretty detrimental to Chelsea's playing style. At the same time, they have Mason Mount that's currently injured and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. So, I mean, a pretty decent amount of injuries, especially some significant ones, which might affect Chelsea. However, they're coming up against Lille, a team that is currently not in the best forms. Yes, they won the French league last year, but they're not the same team. Their current form in the last 5 games has been 2 wins, 1 tie, and 2 losses. One of those losses being to PSG, 5-1. They got absolutely battered by PSG, so not looking too great for Lille in that stance. In the Champions League, they did, however, manage to finish first place in their group, beating out Sevilla, Salzburg, and Wolfsburg in that pretty tough, even group. Top scorers, Jonathan David, the Canadian that's having a breakout season, and just asking me, I'm from Mexico. He's been giving Mexicans a headache. And Burak Yilmaz with 2 goals in the Champions League. Injuries, they are missing Renato Sanchez, who's probably one of their better players. But with that being said, I think Chelsea should have enough firepower to beat out this Lille side, especially after seeing that PSG just batter them 5-1. I don't see why Chelsea shouldn't struggle to score, even though they are a team, according to Elizabeth, that have been struggling to score. So we'll see how Chelsea does. Let's move on. We have only 2 matchups left. We're getting to that final part of the video. If you haven't hit the like button already, make sure you do so. Subscribe if you want to see live reactions. Obviously, we have live reactions to PSG, Madrid, Barca, and more Champions League games, so you're not going to want to miss them. Let's go ahead and jump on to these final 2 games. Benfica versus Ajax. Benfica has had a pretty good season in the Champions League, if you ask me, especially Madridistas will say yes, or Barca fans. Obviously, Benfica managed to pull the upset by eliminating Barcelona from the Champions League, an early exit for Barca, beating them 3-0 in one of their games and then tying them in the other game. So you can't rule them out that easily, right? They've already done a pretty significant deed by eliminating Barcelona from the Champions League. Their current form is 2 wins, 1 tie, and 2 losses. Not the greatest. They're coming from a loss to Sporting Lisbon, also in the Champions League. So already to their main rivals in the Portuguese league, they have not been able to win. You know, a bit worrying for Benfica maybe. And then their top scorer is Darwin Nunez with 16 goals in all competitions, 3 of them being in the Champions League. Their main rivals are Ajax, who on paper, historically, you know, pretty good team in the Champions League, and also having a pretty damn good season, if you ask me. Impressive run in the Champions League, have won all 6 games that they have played in, eliminating Dortmund. Haaland, a player who scored tons of goals in the Champions League last year. Haaland was not able to cut it. Yes, he was injured for quite a while. But nonetheless, Ajax is having a phenomenal season. In their league, they're also, in their past 5 games, have won all 5 games. First place in the league. So I think if you're a Benfica fan, you might want to be worried with this Ajax side, especially when you look at their top scorer, Haller, who's having a fantastic season with 28 goals in all competitions and 10 of those being in the Champions League. 10, if I'm not mistaken, beating Haaland's record from last season for the most goals scored in the group stage. Pretty damn significant. And not that many injuries, only Stekelenburg, their goalkeeper, that I think Ajax should be able to manage just fine. So with that being said, I think Ajax is going to take the victory and eliminate Benfica from the Champions League. Sorry about that. Moving on to that final matchup, and another pretty good one. Atletico Madrid versus Manchester United. In my opinion, the matchup of the two teams with probably the most poor forms in the Champions League at the moment. Atletico Madrid is just having an absolute disaster. 2 wins in their past 5 games and 3 losses. One of those losses being to Barcelona 4-2. Yeah, that's right, they conceded 4 goals. Their other loss to Real Sociedad 2-0. And the third loss to Bilbao 2-1. 3 pretty decent teams in La Liga. Obviously Barcelona is maybe more than decent, but I'm not going to admit that. And in those games that they won, they conceded 3 goals to Getafe this last weekend and 2 to Valencia. So Atletico Madrid is showing huge defensive problems, which is actually not something very normal for Simeone's men. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he approaches his game. He's going to try to tighten up the team a little more, stop conceding as many goals. I think that's going to be key number 1 if Atletico Madrid wants to be successful in this Champions League. In the group stage, sorry for that little pause. In the group stage, they finished 2nd place, barely. I remember AC Milan was actually going to be the team that was going to go through. But then they ended up losing to Liverpool, and Atletico Madrid ended up beating Porto, which allowed Atletico Madrid to go through. Got very lucky. They actually lost 3 games in a row already this season in the Champions League. 2 to Liverpool and then 1 to AC Milan, all back to back. So a bit worrying for Atletico Madrid as well. Their top scorer is Correa with 11 goals in all competitions and Suarez with 9 goals in all competitions. However, both of those players only have 1 goal each in the Champions League. 1 goal each. And we all know Suarez is not good at scoring in the knockout rounds. He has not scored, I think, a goal in the past 5 seasons in the knockout stages. And then, however, Griezmann has been their top scorer in the Champions League, scoring 4. Unfortunately, though, Griezmann is injured. So that's a bit worrying. As well as Daniel Vaz, their newest signing. Carrasco and Jimenez have tested positive for COVID. They should come back, especially since they play next week. So I think Atletico Madrid will be happy about that. However, not having Griezmann, their top Champions League scorer, might be a bit worrying. And let's take a look at Manchester United. Also not the greatest of forms. 2 wins in their last 5 games and 3 ties, all being 1-1. Have not won a single game in their last 3 games. So a bit worrying. They barely finished first place, as I said earlier. Ended up beating Villarreal to that first place position, but had clutch finishes the game. Had a clutch ending to games thanks to Cristiano Ronaldo, who bagged a few last-minute goals. So let's see if Ronaldo's able to continue his scoring form in the Champions League. He already has 6 goals this season, 14 in all competitions. And then there's Bruno Fernandes being their 2nd top scorer with 7 goals in all competitions, however 0 in the Champions League this season. So it's a game of 2 teams that are struggling very much. Manchester United is going to be missing Cavani, Greenwood, who we've all kind of heard what's going on with him, and Nemanja Matic. Both teams have some important injuries. Both teams have poor forms at the moment. Let's see who ends up beating the battle of the worst forms. I think it actually will be Manchester United. I'm just going to back, Ronaldo. Why not? Madrid legend. And obviously I'm not the biggest fan of Atletico Madrid. So I think Manchester United will be able to barely edge it out. But honestly, Manchester United got lucky to have been drawn up against another team that's also in pretty poor form. Simeone is going to want to fix that defense if he wants to aspire at having a chance of beating Manchester United and going on to the next round. With that being said, guys, that concludes all the predictions for the round of 16. I know this video ran a little bit long, so thank you very much for watching it. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for PSG versus Real Madrid live reactions. A la Madrid.